This is Ben from the Be a Photographer channel, and on the screen you're seeing an image that I edited in Capture One Pro 20, but was actually taken and captured by a viewer of mine named Mac McMillan, and this is a photo of a bear in the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming in the US. So Mac commented on my previous video of the dodge and burn technique in Capture One Pro 20 and asked how he could utilize it in his wildlife photos and sent me the raw file of this bear. Now you can see the photo is pretty good, it's sharp, the bear looks big, and it's a good wildlife shot, except there's a little bit of lack of contrast in the background, although we have really harsh lighting because of the midday sun. So I took a stab at editing it, and this is what the shot turned out like. And if we pull back the edit effects, we can take a look at the raw file and see that the bear didn't stand out all that much from the background because there's a lot of desaturated kind of dry brush. There were some greens going on, and I'm going to show you how to make your subject pop from your wildlife photos using the dodge and burn technique and also a little bit of color editing. We can see that the image is completely raw and reset. There are no adjustments done to it at all, no adjustment layers, so I'm going to walk you through it step by step. The first thing I always do, of course, is I change my exposure, so I'm going to play with it here, make it just a little bit brighter, bring the contrast up and the highlights down, and then I'm going to adjust my white balance as well. So for this shot, it's actually kind of hard to tell, so I'm just going to slide between the sides and see what I like. I don't have a good white point that I could set from, but I want it to be probably right about there, and we can always adjust this later on. And next, what I'm going to do is make the bear pop from the background by burning the edges. So this way we have a little bit of differentiation between the edges of the bear and the background. So to do this, I'm going to hit New Empty Layer, and I will call this Burn/Darken Bear Edges. You can call the layer whatever you want. Hit the B key on your keyboard or this brush icon and set your brush size. So you can set your brush by either hitting the bracket keys next to the P key on your keyboard, or you can right click and then select the size by sliding from the left on the smaller end to the right for a larger brush. So I'm going to select a brush probably right here around 160. I'm going to hit M on my keyboard so I can see the mask as I draw it. And with just one brush stroke, you can see I'm going to go on the edges of the bear, and I'm doing this with the trackpad on my MacBook Pro. So you don't need any fancy graphics tablet, although I do have a Wacom and I recommend it. Wacom tablets are great, but you don't need that in order to create this mask. So I'm going to hit M to turn off the mask, and now you can see if I went to -4, and this is going to be total exaggeration, you can see now that the bear looks very different than the background. So we're going to do this effect subtly. We're going to do it right around 0.4, and you can see here was the original, and here it is with that little pop of the burn brush. So with just one stroke, we have a lot more detail on the outer edges of the bear, separating the bear from the background. Now the next step that I'm going to do is hold down and select New Filled Layer, and I'm going to call this Color Adjustments. And I just like having everything on different layers so I can adjust the opacity as I want later on. So what I'm going to do is go into my color editor tool under the color tab, and I'm going to select the color picker right here in the bottom right. I'm going to select this green area here so we can zoom in. We'll select some of this greenery, so the green shrubs or the grass. And now what I can do is adjust the hue so I can change how green or yellow it looks. I can change how saturated it is. So you can see we're adding a little bit more saturation in some of these greens. You can see that in the bottom corner here. And we can also control how light or dark those areas are. So just for control for now, I'm going to set the greens here. I'm also going to change some of the yellows. So I'm going to hit the yellow tab. And you can see as we adjust the yellows, if we go desaturated, well, now the bear is really popping from the rest of the background. Or if we go really saturated, you can see the bear also pops again, and this is a much more vivid and vibrant looking image. So I can select either a more yellowish brown look for the green shrubbery in the back, or green. I don't think green looks that good, so I'm going to leave it about here. I can also change how dark or how bright the background is. So against a bright background, he's going to pop a lot because, again, we made the edges of him darker. But I think if we go even darker than the burn, he also looks pretty good. And here is what I would call my final image. So we went from this kind of low contrast shot, even though it had, again, high contrast between the bright points and the darks, to this where the background pops a lot more on the image. Now these greens look way too strong. They look artificial now. And so what I'm going to do is select my green again and move this reminder away. I'm going to select my greens again, and I'm going to just desaturate them and make them not as bright. So I'm going to bring it down, and there we have our final image in a little bit under 5 minutes. So we have various edits that we could have done. You can see we can play with the colors and the white balance to get a different look. We can also make this a black and white image. So a lot of different options on what to do with a wildlife image in Capture One Pro 20 by using color adjustments and dodge and burn. Mac, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. I hope others did too. If you like what you see, please subscribe, leave a comment down below with tutorial requests, and I will talk to you in the next video. Peace.